What's going on, Cover 3 Media, baby? It's week 3 now. We got start and sits for you coming for every NFL game this week. Leave us your questions in the comments, guys, because we're giving you start and sits and flex options, but if you want specific answers, you need to give us, some options you're debating between, because there's certain situations where, we might be saying sit a certain, running back on the team, but you might not have a better option, so you got to roll with that. We're going to dive into each game, guys, here, Christian, Adam, and myself, and give us, what we think is going to happen this week after seeing 2 weeks of productions for most players now. But yeah, let's dive right into it, guys, here, starting with Thursday night's game. All right, Thursday night football game, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Cleveland Browns. Might be a little bit of an ugly game as both teams have been struggling a bit offensively. Let's start with the visiting Pittsburgh Steelers. Najee, has got this foot injury going. He hasn't really had the greatest start to the season that we were hoping for, in drafts. But given the short week, he's going to be still a starter. You're rolling him out there. You draft him to be, he's still a great RB, high-end RB2. He's still getting the volume. He just hasn't been getting, the touchdown work last week. The Pittsburgh Steelers O-line is just really struggling, which is really tough to watch. But, you got to still roll with Najee. Let's hope he has a big week here coming against Cleveland. You're starting Deontay Johnson, still the wide receiver 1 in Pittsburgh. Trubisky still looks to him a lot, it seems like. And you're going to be starting Fryer with a tight end 2 unless you have an elite option like a Mark Andrews, Kelsey, hopefully if Kittle's back, or Waller. The only really guys I might be starting over him. He's been consistent where, it's not been super, high-scoring games for him, but you're going to be taking that at the tight end position because there's not a lot of better options out there at all. I'm not starting Trubisky at all. Probably not even in Superflex. I think there's better 2 quarterbacks you could find than him. He's been struggling. I know the O-line's not great either, but I could see them putting Pickett out there soon, guys, so prepare for that. Claypool, liked his involvement week 1, not very great week 2, so I would leave him on your bench. Same with Pickens, the rookie. I have a lot of hopes for him still. Be patient, guys. Rookies don't just dominate right away, in the first weeks. We had all the first-round rookie receivers really dominate in week 2, which is great to see, but, I'm still hopeful for, Pickens and Watson, who are getting involved early on, but, they're a long way to go. They're raw prospects, so you can't drop them yet, in my opinion, at all, especially even in redraft leagues. But that's really it for Pittsburgh. T.J. Watt's not playing again. He's out for weeks, so we'll see what goes on with that offense. I hope it improves and it's more fun to watch on Thursday night. And now with Cleveland, you're starting Nick Chubb, had a great week, 3 touchdowns. I have him in one of my leagues, and I'm confident rolling him out there. He's getting the volume. He is their offense. Their O-line is still very good, and I'm rolling him out there that he will get the work that he needs. Sometimes the bank's not get him getting a touchdown or not in PPR leagues, which sucks, but, he's going to get the volume, guys, and there still isn't as many great options out there besides that, so look that way. And then, I'm flexing Amari Cooper, I think. Unless you got, obviously, different options, let us know. But he had a very good week, too. He's, the clear-cut number 1 receiver there. No one really else. I'm not starting Donovan Peoples-Jones. David Bell, not starting either. I'm not even going to start Njoku at tight end. Ugly week 1. Decent in week 2, but I still think there's better options you could find out there. Obviously, again, let us know if you have a question with Njoku for who we could start between them. But, yeah, starting Amari. And then Kareem Hunt, I think I'm going to flex as well. I know he had a really good week 1 with the 2 touchdowns, and then week 2, 9 points, didn't get a touchdown, but he's still heavily involved. He's clearly, a top 3 option in this offense. So obviously, I'm still probably going to flex him, or even an RB2 if you don't have better options. So we'll see how that Thursday night game goes. Hopefully, it's not too ugly to watch. But yeah, let's see what could happen in that one.
What's up? It's week 3, Cover 3 Media. Chris the Kraken King Davis is here ready to go. Starting off with the Buffalo Bills versus Miami. We are sitting Chase Edmonds. This Buffalo Bills rush defense is ridiculous. And at the same time, their Miami Dolphins offense is pass heavy. You got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, 2 of the best speedsters in the leagues. You don't want to be having the rushing side of that. Tua's been pretty accurate. He might be living up to his bold claim by Tyreek Hill earlier in the year. Who knows? But what I will tell you is this. Chase Edmonds is a sit this week. And at the same time, we are starting every wide receiver in that game. Buffalo, we got Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, And at the same time, we got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. We're starting all of them. Simple as day. Heck, I might even go out on a limb and say this. We want Dawson Knox in our starting lineups, and we want Mike Gesicki this next week. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Go get all of them. Start them all. You want every piece of both these offenses this upcoming week.
Bengals, Jets. Wow. Bengals are not looking good to start the season. Fantasy owners are hoping that Joe Burrow can rebound week 3 to help certain players like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Mixon have the dominant performances they were showing last season. Maybe this could happen this week against the Jets. We'll see. Starting off with the starts for the Bengals, we're starting Chase, Mixon, and T. As long as all of them are healthy, no questions asked. I think those are still very great players, and you got to have them in your starting lineups. You can't get too antsy about it. Can't be too worried after 2 weeks. Still just great players to have in your lineup. For the Jets, I can't confidently start anyone on this Jets team. I think we saw through the first 2 weeks, the ball has been spread pretty evenly. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Michael Carter, they've all gotten, some share in this offense, and it's really just tough to predict who's going to get the big plays, who's going to get most of the targets in this offense. So with the Jets, I'm to the point where I just want to see 1 or 2 more weeks out of them, just to see what's happening. I will talk about some of the guys that you might be starting on the Jets if your team is kind of thin. If you need to start someone that you have on the Jets, I'll kind of go over my tiers, my kind of hierarchy, who you should be starting if you're in that position. But I think in many leagues that are not that deep, you're not really looking to start a Jets player in week 3, just because you just don't know. You don't know who's going to get the targets. So for sits, Cincinnati, I am sitting Tyler Boyd. With those big 3 guys there, Chase, Mixon, T commanding a lot of the touches in this offense, and Joe Burrow just not being that great yet. In the first 2 weeks of the season, Boyd is definitely not a great option to start. He could have a big week. He could score a touchdown and put up a decent stat line, but I'm just not confident in that. I think there's some other guys out there who are, number 1 and number 2 in their offense, and are in an offense that's moving the ball down the field pretty easily, pretty handedly, and they're getting a lot more of a target share. So Boyd, no. Everyone else on this Bengals offense, I am sitting. Just similar story to Boyd, and they're just less caliber compared to Boyd. For the Jets, I am sitting Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, and Elijah Moore in that order for wide receivers. So I think if you are looking to start someone on the Jets and you got Garrett Wilson, I think, he's probably the best option there, considering we just saw last week. He is a rookie, and he had such a great performance last week. An all right performance week 1. But we saw last week what kind of a ceiling he has on the Jets offense. You're just hoping that he gets this has a similar command on the offense this week 3. So I think Garrett Wilson is definitely your top option there for the Jets, wide receiver wise, and probably even for the whole team, considering he is a wide receiver, and wide receivers tend to have higher ceilings. So Garrett Wilson, then Corey Davis, I would say he's had, respectable performances, like 13 and 16 points for PPR. That's looking pretty good. It's been pretty consistent. I think he's got a higher floor than Elijah Moore so far, but his ceiling's definitely capped, because I'm thinking Garrett Wilson's getting a lot of those nice targets. So then third off, obviously, is Elijah Moore. Probably wouldn't be starting him at all, guys, just for this week. And probably next week too. I just want to see some more out of this offense. And then for running backs, Breece and then Michael Carter. I'd definitely be starting Breece over Michael Carter, guys. If you had to choose between the two. And if you had to start one of them, I think Breece is still a respectable starter. I mean, last week he did pretty well for fantasy, but he did rely on that touchdown to get some significant points there. So Breece, if you have to start him, go for it. Depends your situation. What kind of other running backs you have in your team, but Breece is definitely going to take some time to develop more and be more of a dominant back in this league for fantasy.
We got the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Nashville, taking on the Tennessee Titans. Another game that we don't know if it's going to be very fun to watch. Both teams have looked very bad in the first 2 weeks. Both are 0-2, but there's some very fantasy relevant players here on Las Vegas. Tennessee, not as much. Starts off with Las Vegas. You're starting Devontae Adams. Great week 1, week 2. Only got that touchdown to save his day. I expect him to bounce back. He's still going to get the targets and work. You're starting that guy all day long. You're starting Darren Waller. He's probably your tight end 1. If you have a better option, I would be shocked if you have Kelsey or an Andrews. But Waller, he's getting the volume, he's getting the work. There's not much more you can be happy with at the tight end position. Renfrow, low end flex, maybe. He's got a concussion right now. I know he did fumble twice towards the end of that Arizona game, but he did get 10 targets. He might not be playing though, so be careful with his injury. Obviously, this is being recorded way before we know if he's playing or not. So be aware of that before you make a decision. But I'm interested in possibly flexing him. Let us know what your options are if you're debating between Renfrow and then Josh Jacobs. He's been kind of struggling. Looks like he kind of needs a touchdown to save his day in PPR leagues. I'm still probably starting him as an RB2 flex option just because Tennessee's defense hasn't looked insanely that great. We saw Barkley run all over them in week 1. So Jacobs depends on your situation, but I think you still probably have to roll him out unless you have a better option. Now at the Titans, there's one guy I'm starting, and it's Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has been struggling as well to start the season, but I think he can pick it up. Las Vegas defense isn't anything to write home about. He's Derrick Henry. I'm still starting him. He's still going to get the volume. Hopefully he gets a touchdown. Seems like him and Jacobs might need touchdowns to save some of their days right now in PPR, which is unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. I'm not starting Robert Woods or Traylon Burks. Traylon Burks has been looking good. I've been excited about him, but I'm still not confident to roll him out. I think there's better options. And same with Robert Woods. And now, lastly, the quarterbacks, guys. Derek Carr has not looked good. As a quarterback 2 in Superflex, I'd play him, but one quarterback leagues, no way. Tannehill, no way in any format am I starting him. He's struggled, and you could hear the Malik Willis chants coming rather than later soon in Tennessee, guys. So hopefully that's not an ugly game, but there are some fantasy relevant players, no doubt about it.
New Orleans versus Carolina. Simple. We're sitting Kamara. He's got a rib cartilage issue. We don't know what's going on at the same time. Jameis is really loving the pass heavy. He's going to Jarvis. He's going to MT. He's going to Olave. The ball is going to be thrown. It's Jameis Winston's offense right now. And it's not Alvin Kamara. His days might be over. He might be done. So realistically, maybe a couple good games out of him this year. But I don't want to be having my money on Alvin Kamara. At the same time, start DJ Moore. I know what people are thinking. He hasn't gotten the targets. They're going to come. And they're going to need to come against this New Orleans team if they have a chance of winning. They're going to be playing from behind more than likely. They're going to be throwing the ball, and DJ Moore is that guy starting this upcoming week. I predict at least 7 receptions for at least 70 yards and a touchdown. Go get him.
Now we got Baltimore versus New England. Baltimore's pass defense isn't looking hot. I mean, last week, granted, it was against Miami, and they had 2 pretty prominent threats in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Some absolute speedsters on that team. So that definitely plays into it, I think. Tua as a quarterback over Mac Jones, I think there's a slight difference there at the very least. I mean, we just saw last week he had 6 touchdowns. Mac Jones hasn't done that. I don't know if he'll be doing that this year or next year. So definitely there's something to be said about that. So I'm not projecting New England to have such a passing attack against the Baltimore Ravens anyways, but definitely something to keep in mind there, guys. Let's get started with the starts. Baltimore, we're starting Mark Andrews, obviously, and Bateman. You guys should be starting Bateman. 2 weeks in a row now he's scored a touchdown. 2 weeks in a row he's had good fantasy points. This guy starts getting a little bit more targets. He's the type of guy who can rip off some big plays. For New England, I think this one's situational. I think this is the only one you can really honestly consider starting is Jacoby Myers. First 2 weeks, he was pretty consistent, but his ceiling was very low. But he scored 10 to 13 points. It's nothing crazy, but it's also, it's respectable. But I think this is the only guy in this offense that we've seen true consistency out of. So he's situational for a start there, guys. I'm not really liking anyone in this New England offense. I think he could have a bigger game against this Baltimore Ravens defense, what we saw the past 2 weeks, at least out of them. Their secondary. There are other guys in this, New England Patriots offense in the passing game that could have a big game. I could totally see that, but I'm just not banking on those guys at all. I think you guys have some better players than that. So, if you're really getting down in the dumps, I would go Jacoby Myers. But if not, don't even look at it, guys. For sits, Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins, if he's healthy, if he's good to go this week, or even if he's questionable and is looking to, get some snaps, he's not starting on my team. I don't think he's back to 100% yet. He might say he is, but I think it's concerning he hasn't, played these past 2 weeks. So I'm just not liking the outlook for him week 3, if he's healthy or not. Duvernay, I'm not starting him either. I think he's just had like 2 pretty wild performances that I don't see happening every week. I don't think he can keep it up personally. I don't think Lamar Jackson can, supply more than Andrews and Bateman with respectable fantasy points week in, week out. This one's a safe sit. Stay away from it. New England, Ramondre Stevenson, sitting him. Damien Harris, sitting him. Even if he's healthy, guys, he's looking to be healthy. So that kind of downgrades Ramondre Stevenson for me as well. If Damien Harris is playing, especially, Ramondre looks like he hasn't really been getting a majority of the workload there. So, I mean, it's just kind of not looking good for those backs in New England. Damien Harris, you're always hoping for that touchdown, and I'm not willing to bank my week on that. So staying away from that. At least if you guys have better running backs, I hope you guys do. And then everyone else on this New England Patriots offense, I can't get behind it, guys. So not a lot of confidence here for New England. This game's going to be an interesting one.
We got the Detroit Lions traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings in an NFC North battle. I'm excited for this game. A lot of relevant fantasy players. First off, with the visiting Detroit Lions, you're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. What a start to the season, guys. He has been proved a lot of doubters wrong, and I think he's going to come down a little bit. I still think he's going to be a top 15 PPR receiver to end the season, but I think he'll go down a little bit. You're rolling him out there, starting him as your receiver 2 or flex. It's most likely where he is on your roster. I'm loving the opportunity he's getting there with Goff. DeAndre Swift, hopefully he's more healthy next week, but even with limited touches, he got, very good usage out of that. You're starting DeAndre Swift. There's just no doubt about it. With him, he's a beast. He's, really showing some people that, might have been sleeping on him, but there's still Jamal Williams that could vulture him out a little bit. But Jamal Williams, I'm not starting. No way in hell I'm starting him. There's just no way. That's really it. Hawkinson's been struggling, guys. Tight end position for the Lions. He might be your best option, but if there's a guy like Goddard or Ertz, I would start them over him, even Freiermuth too. But if you don't have a better option than that, you're going to have to roll him out there. But be cautious. He's been struggling. Hopefully he can pick it up and get more work. With that, Jared Goff, I'm not going to be starting either. Maybe as a quarterback 2 in Superflex, but 1 quarterback leagues, I don't like that at all. Now, and DJ Chark 2 on the Lions, only other really guy in Detroit. I'm not touching him on my bench. Now, Minnesota Vikings, I'm starting Jefferson. Dominant week 1. Week 2, not really his fault. Kirk Cousins looked like absolutely just poop. Just not good. So we're rolling Jefferson out there. You took him first round. He's a beast. He's going to have a big game, I think. Detroit doesn't have the best secondary at all. Dalvin Cook also has been kind of struggling to start the season, but you took him for a reason. You're starting him still, guys. I expect him to pick it up. It's been some weird game scripts for him. They're leading so heavily against the Packers and throwing the ball a lot. And then in this game, they were down a lot and passing again. So, don't give up on Cook yet. I know he's getting older, 27, but you're still rolling him out there, no doubt about it. I'm not starting Thielen. I'm not liking his usage at all. He got some lucky catches towards the end of the game when there was a blowout. I'm not starting him at all. I need to see some more production out of him in this Minnesota offense. Mattinson as well, I'm not starting. Irv Smith, I'm not starting either. Because like in Hawkinson or something, I'm obviously starting them over him. Let us know your options if you have to debate between starting Irv Smith. He did get some nice plays and catches, but I saw him drop a few balls, and I don't know if he's going to get that volume every game from Kirk Cousins. I'm not starting Kirk Cousins, guys. Maybe quarterback 2 in Superflex again, but wow, he struggled. Picks, primetime Kirk sucked, but it should be a great NFC North battle. I'm excited to watch it, guys.
Next, we got Philly versus Washington. Simple as day, we are starting both Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson. Why is that? Why not A.J. Brown? Why not Terry McLaurin? It is simple, all right? Not that A.J. Brown's going to do bad. You're going to start him either way. Darius Slay has been freaking slaying. You can't just go, I'm going to go against Darius Slay right now. You can't. He's been balling out. But Jahan Dotson is going to be left wide open for touchdowns. And this Commanders offense is going to score. And you know what? At the end of the day, their secondary isn't that great. Devontae Smith is due for an explosion game. I'm predicting he gets a touchdown this game. Heck, he might even get over 100 yards. Devontae Smith especially start. Jahan Dotson, red zone target. At the same time, we're sitting Miles Sanders from that game. Hard to say, but the dude, he's just not that good. This rush defense on the Commanders might be a high side. at the end of the day, he ain't it. They're going to have to pass the ball in this game. I'm sitting Miles Sanders.
Chiefs versus Colts. Colts offense, I don't know. It struggled last week without the passing game. We saw that JT, he had a couple great rushes, but the offense wasn't moving the ball down the field enough for JT to succeed. Am I sitting JT? No way in heck. But, that is worrisome for me that the Colts offense the first 2 weeks were struggling against teams that are not really that good at all. I mean, Texans, number one, are not good. Two, the Jags. I mean, the Jags are looking much better this year, but they're still, I still don't consider them a top 15 team right now. And that's concerning for the Colts going against the Chiefs, who have such a high-powered offense. And it's like, the Colts defense really didn't have an answer for the Jaguars or the Texans. Two offenses that, especially the Texans, aren't the greatest. So I just think the Chiefs are going to walk all over the Colts. I think the Colts are going to be playing from behind. It's going to be hard for them to score, hard for them to get points to their players. This is a game to monitor, guys. So starting off the starts for the Chiefs, Kelsey's a given. I think CEH, I think he's earned a spot on certain lineups. I think you could genuinely consider starting him over certain guys, certain veterans that haven't been having good weeks these first 2 weeks. Guys like Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. I don't know. They're just not looking that good. You could start him over a guy like Josh Jacobs. All the guys I mentioned before, J.K. Dobbins, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, Breece Hall, Michael Carter. You could start CEH over all those guys. Now, am I telling you to start CEH over Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook? I'm not going to tell you guys to do that because I think, the first 2 weeks of the season is always, shaky. There's always some crazy stuff that happens. I think players get rolling later on in the season. Some people pop off in the beginning, fall off short. Some people pop off early and keep it going. Personally, for my situation, I'm still starting guys like Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook over Clyde just because of their history and just a certain confidence I have in them guys. But I would not be, I wouldn't blame you for starting CEH. I wouldn't judge you for it, but over those two guys. But I think, it's just, it is a risky start. It's definitely one of those where you have to really think about the matchups and really go with your gut. Juju, I'm starting him with caution. I think if you have some other more reliable players, other guys who've shown a higher ceiling, I would start over Juju. I'm personally going to have to make the decision myself. I have Devonta Smith on my bench. I started Devonta Smith over Gabe Davis because he was hurt last week. So, Devonta Smith had a comeback week, scored more than Juju did both, actually week 1 and 2 combined. So Juju with his shoulder, I'm monitoring that as well because I think that kind of played into his poor performance last week. He's got a little shoulder issue going on. That might be, hurting him against press coverage or any type of, physical matchup where he's got to, win those 50-50 balls. So Juju, I'm starting him with caution, guys. It's kind of like one of those things where is he going to have a week 3 where he just proves that he's number one receiver behind Travis Kelce in this offense. So if you guys got some people that you might be, if you really got to win this week, guys, you might be starting someone you feel more comfortable with over Juju. For the Colts, only 2 people I'm considering. JT, obviously. He's in your lineups no matter what. I don't care what happened last week. I think he can still have good games. I think last week was a little bit of a product of the passing game that was struggling. But he still had those breakoff runs. He's always capable of that. He could easily have a 75-yard touchdown against the Chiefs defense. So the possibilities are always there. JT's a big-time player. You're starting him. Even if he doesn't do great, we saw his floor last week. Still got 7 points, which isn't fantastic, but at least it's something. It's better than some other running backs out there whose floor could be 2. JT, great ceiling there. Pittman's dealing with a minor quad injury, guys. It's looking like he's good for week 3. Monitor that if he's healthy, even if he's if he's still kind of lingering for this game. I think the Colts are going to need him in that game to hopefully have a chance to win. Otherwise, they're starting off the year 0-2-1. So they need to get a win this week bad, guys. I think Pittman is definitely going to be, a starter in your lineups if he's playing this week. I think he's going to be targeted in this offense, even if he's got a little bit of a lingering injury that's slowing him down a little bit. So he's definitely starting this offense. For the Chiefs, we're sitting everyone else. I just can't start these receivers on the Chiefs behind Juju. We saw that they just aren't getting enough share in the offense. The ball was spread so much week 2. It's just not convincing enough for me, guys. Running back situation, not starting anyone behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And for the Colts, I'm sitting everyone else on this Colts team. Hines, we're sitting Paris Campbell, we're sitting Alec Pierce, even if he's healthy, guys. I just don't think any of those guys have the security for me to start them in my lineups, or the security or ceiling. So not starting those guys.
We got another ugly game here, guys. Houston Texans traveling to Chicago, take on the Bears. Just two of the worst teams in the NFL, in my opinion. Not a ton of relevant fantasy players in this game, but I'm starting/flexing Brandon Cooks. The volume's there. Doesn't have a super high ceiling, but he's going to get that consistent points here with a big connection with Davis Mills. There's nobody else I'm really interested in starting in this Houston offense. Dameon Pierce, I'm leaving on my bench still. It was good to see him finally get some more work. But I just feel like there's better options at the running back position, especially in PPR leagues. Davis Mills, super flex quarterback 2, I would play him. That's it. O.J. Howard looking like that fluke game is not going to keep up. I'm not starting him either. Just not a lot of options in Houston still, guys. And then Chicago. No, I've been kind of posting stuff about Montgomery. He had a good week against my Packers. I'm starting him against the Texans for sure. Texans, don't have the best defense. Bears are very run heavy, and Montgomery got it done last week. So I think he could have a pretty big game against the Texans, to be honest. And then maybe sell high on him personally after this week. And then Darnell Mooney, I'd be flexing him possibly if you don't have a better option. He's been struggling as well, but it's not really his fault because this passing offense is just atrocious. It's just terrible. Justin Fields has just looked dog shit. Sorry for my language, but wow, he's just looked bad. The 2 times in the Packer game he threw past the line in scrimmage was an interception and a terrible overthrow to Mooney. It's just not looking good in Chicago for that passing offense. Komet, you're not starting either. Not even a catch still in the season, guys. But the passing offense hasn't been there. Bears should let him throw it loose a little bit, and I'm hoping that if you have Mooney, you might need to play him, and hoping that happens. But please look elsewhere, especially for Mooney, because it's very not looking good in that offense at all. Either of these offenses. This might be a terrible game, but maybe it'll be high scoring because both defenses aren't very good either. It'll be fun to watch if something like that could happen.
Jacksonville versus the Chargers. Simple. We are starting Gerald Everett and Mike Williams. I don't know Keenan Allen's status this game, but what I can tell you is this. Gerald Everett is the tight end 6 right now in fantasy football. He's got red zone potential. They are going to throw the ball. It's the Chargers offense. You're starting him, as far as I'm concerned, right now, until Keenan Allen is healthy and they've proven to stop targeting him. At the same time, Big Mike is the go-to target on that team. You'd be stupid not to start him. And you know who we're sitting? James Robinson. I don't trust them against this Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa attack here. They're too big of monsters. This Chargers defense, Derwin James going to blitz and knock him out. Might tear his Achilles again for all we know. I don't care. ATN's more likely to get more points just off receptions. James Robinson, a sit.
Rams, Cardinals. I'm starting Cooper Kupp, obviously, A-Rob, obviously, and Tyler Higbee if needed. We saw the first 2 weeks that he was getting some relevant production. If you have a better tight end, obviously don't start him over a guy like Darren Waller, Kelsey, even Hawkinson. It's just, I don't know if it's worth it, guys. But, this Arizona defense, it's been struggling. I mean, they came back and took care of business against the Raiders, but that's the Raiders. I think the Rams defense is going to be stopping the Cardinals, very frequently putting the Rams in good scoring position here. We saw last week that A-Rob was more involved in the offense. Matthew Stafford was looking at him more. I think he's a big red zone target for the Rams. We saw that last week. So consider his value to be increasing going into week 3. For the Cardinals, I'm starting Hollywood Brown and Ertz if needed. Ertz again has shown that he is getting some respectable points for fantasy. Hollywood Brown's still the number 1 target in that offense for receiving. Definitely going to have a big week here sooner than later. I don't know if it's going to be against the Rams, but I still think he's a good start here for your guys' teams. For the sits on the Rams, I'm sitting Henderson and Akers, guys. I don't think they got what it takes to put up big games. I think they're going to be splitting the workload here like we kind of saw last week. Akers definitely had a little bit of an uptick in the offense. And then for the Cardinals, I'm sitting everyone else that I didn't mention. I just can't. I just don't know what's happening with this team. I don't know who's going to be the third option. I guess I didn't really cover James Conner really that much, but we got to monitor his injury status. If he's good to go for week 3, I think you could start him. But again, he's one of those guys where you're going to be hoping to God to get into the red zone and really close at that to the end zone. So I just don't know if that's looking good for James Conner, especially if he's a little bit slowed down by the ankle injury. We see that he just does not have, he does not have the productivity without the touchdown, guys. So this week, I don't know if I like the James Conner start. I think a guy like CEH might be a more reasonable start over a guy like James Conner. So look out for that.
Next, we have the Green Bay Packers heading to Florida, taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Packers got the win against Chicago. This is a really tough run defenses, and the Packers like to run the ball with Jones and Dillon. I think I'm still starting Jones and flexing Dillon this week, guys. I'm just a little nervous about this run defense because it is insane with Devin White, Levante David, Vita Vea, and Akeem Hicks. So you got to roll them out there, guys, I think, but just lower your expectations. Hopefully they can just get that consistent 12, 13 points and maybe get a touchdown. I just know the Packers don't fare well in warm weather games, which is not looking exciting. There's nobody else. I'm not starting Lazar. I'm not starting any of these Packer receivers until I see consistent games out of them because I think Rodgers is going to really spread the ball out a lot. So Jones and Dillon are only really playable guys, in my opinion, on the Packers. Rodgers, probably starting him still. Yeah, I would start him still. I think he could have a really bad game, though. I'm really nervous. But depends on your option. Let us know the options for Rodgers here in the comments if you have them. Quarterback 2, super flex, obviously, starting him. But you got to hope for the best and hope that the Packers can turn around against Tampa, which they have been struggling playing in those California, Florida games. And then with Tampa Bay, you're starting Leonard Fournette. I think he'd have a big game. Still needs to get that touchdown on the season. And there's just a lot in the air besides that for the Tampa Bay offense. Mike Evans is suspended one game, but he's appealed his suspension. If he does play, you're rolling him out there, obviously. And then if he's suspended, you're not going to play him because he's not active. And then Chris Godwin and Julio Jones, we don't know if they're going to be playing. I will say if either of them are playing, I would flex them because there's going to be no one else to throw it to for Tom Brady. So if they're healthy, flex them. If they're not playing, obviously don't play them. So those 3 receivers, it all depends on what happens in the next couple days before the game starts. So be cautious and be aware and pay attention to that so you can set your lineup, accordingly. And then, Brady as well, same situation as Rodgers. He's not looked as good either. Quarterback 2 in super flex for sure, but then in one quarterback league, let us know your option. I'm probably sitting Brady and Rodgers though. If you have a better option, a more elite option. But that should be a fun game. 2 of the best quarterbacks to ever do it. 12 versus 12.
And finally, we got the Falcons versus the Seahawks. Run-heavy game. We are starting Cordero Patterson. We are starting Kenneth Walker III this week. Breakout game. It is time. They tested his waters. He looked pretty great on his carries that he had. It is time to release the monster. I love you, Rashad Penny. You're a great player. But for some reason, it's not panning out for you. And you know what? It might be these rush defenses you're playing. But Ken Walker is the one getting the receptions. You're starting Ken Walker. Simple as day. That's what's happening. So that, in turn, you're sitting Rashad Penny because the rush defenses and all of that. But we're also sitting both QBs clear as day. If you're starting Marcus Mariota or Geno Smith in more than a super flex league, you have something wrong with your team and you need to seriously reconsider.
And then San Francisco, Denver. It'll be an interesting game, guys. I mean, Denver's been struggling, it seems. San Francisco had a pretty dang good week last week. They lost Lance, but I think Jimmy G still can take care of business. And I think Jimmy G is great for Debo and Kittle owners. I think last year we saw just how good Debo was with Jimmy G in the offense, and same with Kittle. I think those two have a great connection with them. So with that being said, San Francisco, I'm starting Debo Samuel, no questions asked. Kittle, if he's healthy, if he's 100%, I'm starting him. Even if Kittle's only going to be on the field 75% of what he usually is, I'm still starting Kittle considering his big play potential and just this connection he has with Jimmy G. Jeff Wilson, this guy's a situational start for me, guys. He is the lead back in this offense now that Elijah Mitchell's down and Davis Price is down. So I think in this 49ers offense, you can expect to see some reasonable production out of Jeff Wilson. Again, definitely situational. It might be a little bit hard to start him this week, guys, over some bigger names, but if you need to, he's there for you. And then for Denver, as of right now, I'm only starting Sutton and Javonte. We don't know what's going on with Jerry Jeudy's shoulder. It looked pretty weird, kind of gross last week, but he doesn't have anything structurally wrong with it, so it all depends on that soft tissue. Is he feeling good to go for week 3? How good does he feel? It might be a similar situation to Juju where I don't know if he's going to be winning a lot of those, 50-50 balls or those man coverage press matchups. So with a bum shoulder, so definitely be watching out for that, guys. You might be able to start him if he's looking 100% go, but not feeling too great about it. For sits, I'm sitting San Francisco. I'm sitting Ayuk and everyone else. Ayuk, he just hasn't shown what he needs to show for me, guys. I think there's only 2 guys for certain that are going to be getting a majority of these offensive targets and touches, Debo and Kittle. So Ayuk, I need to see a couple more weeks out of him. And everyone else, obviously, I'm sitting on that team. And for Denver, I am sitting Jeudy if he's out, obviously. And if his shoulder seems to be an issue, I might be considering sitting him too and starting someone else who has a good matchup or, is healthy and has been a good reliable guy for the first 2 weeks of the season. Melvin Gordon, I'm sitting as well. I just don't think he's getting the workload necessary to be a starting running back in your lineups, guys.
To close out week 3, we got Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants. Great rivalry in the NFL. Not a lot of relevant fantasy players, but with the Dallas Cowboys, you're starting CeeDee Lamb. Still got 11 targets again. He's got a decent connection with Cooper Rush. I'm still playing him / flexing him. There's just no doubt about it. His talent's there. Let's hope he can get a touchdown or some more volume even or some more catches. Saquon, you're still starting. Struggled in week 2, but you drafted him for a reason to be your starter or stud, and he could possibly have a big game, so you're not going to not start him. Come on. And then the only other options really that I'm thinking about even in this game that I'm starting, I'm flexing probably Tony Pollard. He looked good last week in his touches, and I think he's going to get more touches with Cooper Rush in the passing game. And guys, Pollard's better than Zeke. I don't know if I need to keep saying this. I can just see it with my own eyes the last 2 years. I know Zeke was hurt last year, but Pollard's better. Flex him, guys, possibly. Depends on your situation, but I'm flexing probably. And then Sterling Shepard, I would flex too. Depends on your options. If you're debating between like him and Mooney, I would take him over Mooney. Just depends on the situation. This Giants receiving situation is so weird to me. They don't play Tony really, and then they don't play Kenny Galladay. It's just really weird what Brian Dable's doing there. I think he's just wasting talent. And Tony's their best receiver in their team easily, I think. And it's just hard to stay away from that. So then some of the other players in this game, I'm not starting Ezekiel Elliott. He's been just terrible the first 2 weeks to start this season. I'm not putting him out there. There's better options, guys. Hopefully you have on your team. I'm not putting him out there. If you have Zeke and Pollard, I'm starting Pollard over him, personally. Tony and Kenny Galladay, I just talked about them not playing them because there's too much uncertainty with this Brian Dable's receiving play-wise. It's really getting annoying, and I can't stand it, so I'm not rolling them out there. Noah Brown, another relevant guy in Dallas. He's been doing pretty decent. He looks like he's got a connection, and he's a receiver too before Gallup comes back. I'm probably not going to play him still. I just think there's better options and better chance you can take with some receivers in your flex spots. And then Dalton Schultz, depends on his injury situation. If he's playing, I would put him out there. If he's not, obviously sit him. All depends on if he's healthy or not, but I feel like he's not going to be playing in this game, so definitely have an option to replace him with. And then the quarterbacks, not playing either of them, not even in Superflex as a quarterback too. There's just no way. They haven't looked terrible. Cooper Rush hasn't looked bad, but I just think there's way better options, guys. So hopefully that game will be exciting on Monday Night 10, Week 3, with another exciting time. That wraps up our starts and sits for Week 3, guys. Leave us comments, questions if you have specific questions. Check out our TikTok and Instagram at Cover3Media. We post, daily content to help you guys out, give us our takes, give us our perspectives. Stay with us, guys. Drop a like on this video and subscribe to us. We'd really appreciate it. And continue to stay with us for more content to help you win your fantasy football leagues. And I just want to say again, it's only been 2 weeks. Don't panic too much on a lot of players, guys. There's a lot of season left. A lot of things can happen, guys.